Hi, I'm Brent B, and welcome to the first episode of The Joy of Making Game Boards. Today's such a beautiful day, I thought we'd do a picture that will turn into a game board that'll just make you feel good inside. So we're going to do a little sunset, but you know the rule. Right away we've got to make a big decision. Where's our horizon going to be? And I think it's going to be right about here. So I got to do a little prep work. If you'll excuse me, I'll be back in a moment. So I've got my standard old 18.5-ish by 24.5-ish pine canvas, and I have sanded it down nice and smooth with 220 grit sandpaper, so it's all smooth and dry and ready to go. So I'll tell a little bit about what I'm going to do here. I'll have them run the colors across the screen. So I'm just going to use 4 colors today, and I'll be using Kita wood dye to hopefully do a happy little sunset. And then we'll put a couple little surprises in here shortly. So to begin with, we'll go right into our yellow, and we'll just start applying some color. Now I put some paper and some tape down here so that I can mark off my horizon. And since we're going to do a nice little sunset, we'll just start laying down some yellow. And a good rule of thumb when you're working with wood dye is nice long strokes. If you stop in the middle like you might have saw me do a moment ago, it will leave blotches. So let's just get a lot of color. Load the rag with color. There we go. Okay. And what's so nice about the dye is that it lets the wood grain show without covering it up like paint would. What I like to do when I am selecting wood for a game board that I'm going to do a little artwork on is I like to see what characteristics the wood has that I'm working with. Like you'll notice here we've got a lot of gray that's in the wood. Instead of trying to ignore that or get away from it, we can embrace that. Hopefully that will end up looking like little clouds, happy little clouds. Okay, so that's it for the yellow. Let's go right into the orange. We'll use that same dirty old rag and go right on top of the yellow. Just start blending that. Now I mix my dye with isopropyl alcohol, and so it does evaporate fairly quickly, but I think I should have some time here to blend in a nice little sunset. And this is actually only my third or fourth time working with wood dye, and I am really excited about it. I'm just going to come in from the side here and not stop abruptly, again, so I don't have any blotch marks. There you go. Get a little more color down there. All right. Okay, how about we do a little more orange up here. Okay. Let's go into some not alizarin crimson. We'll use that same dirty old rag. Start laying in some red. Look how pretty that is. Again, I've sanded this down to 220 grit. You don't have to go that far down, but the finer the grit, the smoother the blend of the dye is going to be. All right. top there. And I've actually put a few marks on the board where I'm going to have my marble holes, because this is going to be an aggravation game, or a Wahoo board. Okay, so, well, that is still wet. I'm going to go into my blue. Just a tiny bit. In fact, I'm going to test it up top. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I'm just going to darken in the corners a little bit. Just a little bit. Nice and easy. 2 hairs and some air. All right. Well, maybe 2 hairs, some air, and a little extra wood dye. Okay, there we go. Just darken in the corners a little bit. And as the dye leaves the rag, there's less, then you have an opportunity to begin blending it a little bit. Okay. Yeah, just like that, we got ourselves a happy little sky. That works pretty good. So I'll tell you what, give me another moment and I'm going to take this off and we'll go to the next step. I'll tell you what, you know, as you start to do these things, you begin to see things. So before I take that tape off, I'm going to put some indication of some distant mountains in the backdrop. So let's use some of that same color. Make sure it's not too thick. Just begin. We use a clean rag. Again, putting in some indications of some far away mountains. There we go. Get a little more there. Okay. I'll tell you what, since we're going to have dinosaurs in this picture, how about we do a little volcano? There we go. All right. Okay. Maybe make it a little more interesting there. All right. For a beginner, not too bad. Okay, let's pull this tape off. Okay, I'm going to leave the bottom just the natural pine, and in just a moment I'm going to come back with a couple stencils because I cannot paint happy little dinosaurs, but I can stencil them. Okay, so we've got our little T-Rex and our Styracosaurus. They may look like they're at odds, but remember, this is your world, and you can have it any way you like in your world. So in my world, they're friends. T-Rex and his friend Clyde. So I'm just going to take a little black acrylic paint and just start tapping in the color. And these stencils work really good. It's a permanent vinyl stencil that I printed out with my Cricut. The only thing you have to be careful of is you put too much paint on there, well, you're not going to be too happy because it's going to bleed under the stencil. I'm going to go ahead and wipe it, but I'm going to wipe away from the borders as much as I can. And like I said earlier, I'm not pretending to be an artist. I'm not one. I would like to be, but I'm just kind of learning on the fly and taking whatever help I can get. All right, I'll just rub that in there. And I'm using black because we got a sunset here. And so you're not going to see much color. He's looking pretty good. How about we go over to his friend? And we'll tap in some color there. Wipe it in whenever we can. I have to say though that, like I mentioned earlier, this is only my third or fourth time working with the Key to Wood die, and it is a lot of fun. Initially, when I was making these game boards, I thought, hey, well, you know, maybe what I could do is try Bob Ross's wet on wet oil painting on wood. And it wasn't too bad, but it covers up the wood grain. That's one of the beautiful things about wood is the grain. And when you use the dyes, you don't have to worry about that because the grain shows all the way through, and it worked out pretty good. Our gray areas on our pine canvas here kind of look like distant clouds, and we were able to blend the color, create an interesting sky. I'm going to do a little more touch up here, not bore you with that, and then I'll be back. All right, not too bad. Now, you might be thinking, is he ever going to beat the devil out of it? No, not for this technique. For this technique, we're going to drill the devil out of it. That really is the most fun part of this whole technique. Can we have a little music around here?